There's nothing that you can't imagine in your mind or feel in your heart that you can't create in your life. I think the most important question in life is, what do you want? You're here. Your greatest power is your ability to choose. You have the ability to create whatever life that you want. The problem is most people are taught it's not okay to have what they want. You're worth it from the place of what you want and to actually ask for what you want. When a person breaks through that, you'll watch them 10x their business almost overnight. You almost have to walk them through it so that they can see it. But when they see it, they never forget it.
On today's Legally Speaking podcast, I'm delighted to be joined by David Neagle. David is a speaker, best-selling author, and founder of the multi-million-dollar global consulting company Life Is Now. He's also the host of the Business Daily News ranked podcast, The Successful Mind. David has a wealth of experience in personal and professional development industries, helping tens of thousands of students gain confidence to increase their revenue. His mission is to teach people to think successfully so they can experience personal freedom. So, a very big warm welcome to the show, David.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. And before we dive into all your amazing experiences, we do have a customary question here on the Legally Speaking podcast, which is, on the scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very real, what would you rate the hit TV series Suits in terms of its reality of the law if you've seen it?
I haven't seen it, so it would be 0 for me.
And that's a very fair answer given you've never seen it. And with that, we're going to move swiftly on to talk all about you. So to begin with, David, would you mind telling our listeners a bit about your background and career journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is kind of interesting. I was a high school dropout, raised on the streets of Chicago, just kind of me and my brother, parents divorced, went on their crazy way. I was just trying to find my way in the world, and I started doing something where I was putting responsibility ahead of skill set. So I got married, had a couple of kids, then proceeded to have my car repossessed, go bankrupt, end up in low-income housing and on food stamps. So the only skill set I had was to drive a truck or drive a forklift. And long story short, I did that for a couple of years, trying to figure out how do I change it, with the idea that I needed to go back to school to get an education to, fulfill my responsibilities just at the very least. So this is all before the internet, right? This is in the late 80s, early 90s. And I didn't have the time or the money to do it. I was working 6.5 days a week. And like I said, we were on food stamps. So I was in this proverbial hole where I couldn't figure out how to get out. And I think the biggest problem was I thought the answer to the problem was looking for money. I was trying to find the money to be able to move myself forward when I didn't have the money. I didn't know that wasn't the problem. 2 years into this, I have a major, just like emotional meltdown one night. And I started pleading to God, like, please help me. I'm crying. I'm sobbing in the back of this trailer. I don't know I'm exhausted, like the whole thing. And this voice in my head says, change your attitude. So I went through a process that night while I was working of trying to figure out 3 things in my attitude to change that somebody else who was successful had that I didn't see in myself. And that was act like you love what you do everything to the best of your ability, and treat everybody with total respect. That's what I came up with. 30 days later, my income tripled. I went from $20,000 a year to $62,000. And then it put me on this path of studying because I was so flabbergasted by how that could possibly occur in my life. I wanted to know what I did so that I could duplicate it. And I went on this process of studying for 7 years. And then when I figured it out, I started helping other people. In 1999, I opened up this company, Life Is Now, and I've been transforming personal lives and businesses ever since.
Yeah, and we're going to dive into that. I just want to pick up on the attitude point. It reminds me of my first ever basketball coach over here in the UK, and he said AIE, and it stands for attitude is everything. He'd always say that, and he'd say when you lace them up, you come to play. Have the right attitude. It's absolutely everything. Everything else can be fixed and worked on, but if you can get your attitude right to actually what you're saying, then it's amazing what you can achieve. So let's talk about Life Is Now, because you are the founder of a multi-million-dollar global consulting company. Congratulations. But could you tell us about Life Is Now Inc. and what services you do offer?
Yeah, absolutely. So we primarily focus on small to medium-sized business owners. We do some corporate work on private request, but mostly it's small to medium business owners. And we work around 2 things, mindset and strategy, right? So most of the time when we get small business owners, it's not so much that their strategy is messed up. They usually have somewhat of a performing strategy, but the mindset that's operating it is a mess. So when we get that straight, they're literally able to do like 10x stuff, quantum leap type achievements in a very short period of time, which is one of my specialties because that's what happened to me that got me interested in it. So I love to succeed fast, right? I'm not one of these guys that likes to do it slow. And so we do private coaching, we do mindset work. I have a program called the Elite Mind Experience where I work with about 150 business owners 7 days a week, 365 days a year for about 15, 20 minutes in the morning, getting them ready mindset wise and expectation for their success. And then behind the scenes of that, we do strategy work with them, marketing, teach them sales, the various things that they need to be proficient in order to make their business, increase, live their dreams.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we were really keen to have the discussion today, particularly in the legal world and a lot of lawyers and legal professionals from those small to mid-sized law firms. A lot of what you're talking about today in terms of that sales marketing is going to become an even more important role, I believe, of the modern legal professional. So, but let's talk about your journey, because building a multi-million-dollar company is a significant achievement, but doesn't come without some struggles along the way. So can you talk us through a bit about your journey of building the company, perhaps from the early days to where you are today?
Yeah. So when I started, this is an interesting thing. So when I started, I had 4 children. Okay, we had two small ones, and then we had 2 that were from 10 to 13 years old. Right. So there was this gap, obviously, when we were broke. So that's what that was. But I made an agreement with my wife at the time that I would, from day one, I would earn enough money to be able to pay the bills, because nobody wanted to go backward. And I was leaving a good corporate gig at that point where we were okay. Like, we wasn't setting the world on fire, but we had a home, we had a new car, cat, a dog, the whole thing, able to take a vacation. She didn't want to go backwards. I could completely respect that. I was a little bit more adventurous and risk taking than she was, but I totally respected that. So our bills at the time were $5,000 a month. So from day one, there was no preparation. It was, I got in there and immediately I realized I need to master sales first so that I can keep that coming in. I think there were 2 things that happened. One was that I stayed doing that myself too long. I had not learned that I needed to leverage and hire a team and learn how to hire a team and train a team and all of that. And the other thing was that because money was tight in the very beginning, I got the company up to 5 million, and then I made a terrible decision, right? I decided to read and sign a contract on my own without having my attorney look at it because I didn't want to pay the attorney. Yeah. And it cost me $5 million. One of the people in there stole the money that we earned. Not only that, but there was a line in the contract that said if for any reason this business dissolves, they own the database, because we were merging databases with 3 different people in order to be able to leverage that. I never saw the line. It was like a blind spot. I never saw it. Of course, my attorney would have seen it had I had him read it, but so not only am I broke and I have the taxes that I have to pay for making that money, but I don't have a database that I can market to. So I had to start all over from scratch at the 4th year in business and rebuild it. Now I did that. We did it in a year, got that worked out. And then I thought to myself, I need a little bit more help as far as the structure. So I hired coaches for me to help me get better at the things that I wasn't good at. And then it just kept growing from there. I mean, it's been absolutely fantastic. We're at 26 years now that we've been in business and never gone backwards. So I'm really proud of that. We've done it in all kinds of economies. We've done all kinds of political situations, all with people all over the world. And we've worked with a tremendous amount of lawyers along the way. I kind of fell into that because I had a client that was an attorney that he created a company called How to Manage a Small Law Firm, Arjan Robbins. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He came to me completely broke and wiped out, and we turned his company around. Well, he was just starting it in about a year. And then I got just a flood of attorneys from him, and which I still do to this day. So.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of the lawyers listening to this will be pulling their hair out at the story you shared there in terms of not having them looking over that document. And
Yeah.
I think you proved the point there of the value lawyers can bring. And I want to sort of double down now on attorneys and law firms, because you've done a lot of work with them, particularly helping them obtain personal freedom through the power of mindset, which you touched on before. So how have you assisted lawyers and law firm owners in shifting a mindset? 'Cause it can be quite hard sometimes to do that, particularly in the legal profession. And what is their usual mindset when they first approach you?
The mindset is that they shouldn't have to ask for help. That's one of the very first things. Part of their education is to instill the confidence in them to be able to do the things that they do, being an attorney, whether a trial lawyer or prosecutor, whatever it is that they're doing. So I understand they have to have that extreme confidence to be able to stand up in front of very seasoned people and also argue the law at the same time. However, when they go through school to become an attorney, they don't learn the first thing about a business. And it's almost as if business itself is a step underneath of the education that they have, and they view it that way. So they don't have the respect for it. And they think, well, I'm an attorney. I did all this. I passed the bar. I should be able to figure this out. And it's a completely different animal. So if they can get past, and I say this with love to them, if they can get past the arrogance that comes from, right? There's no stopping what they can do. But it is, and I'll tell you a quick story. When I first started working with that guy that I was telling you about, the biggest problem that we had the first year that I was working with him was he was going around speaking to lawyers that were getting continuing education credits. And he would go speak and they would laugh at him. They would laugh him right out of the front of the room. They didn't want to hear him. They thought he was a joke. And he couldn't get through to him. So I started analyzing his speeches and rewrote them so that the way that the speech landed was that the way the attorney interpreted it was their own idea. Once we did that, everything changed. And of course, he's a legend in the business. He's done absolutely fantastic. But I think that it's not just attorneys, it's professionals in general. The educational system builds that into professionals, engineers, doctors, lawyers. There is a blind spot there that they need the superior confidence, but it has a tendency to cause judgment on anything that they think is beneath them. And if they can get rid of that, then everything's great.
So true, isn't it? And I've seen that in my own career with people, like you say, not just necessarily lawyers, professionals, but if you can get out of your own way. And I actually say getting help is a strength. If you can get people around you, it's not a weakness, because you're shortcutting the problems or issues you're having by getting the expertise from the people that can help you quicker. So change that mindset in terms of actually you're becoming a far smarter way of operating through getting that help. So let's keep on growth, because you've helped grow a company or two on your own. So first, you obviously need to learn to delegate and allow others to support you. So this kind of feeds quite nicely. What are 3 key mindset shifts in business, like a law firm, you can adopt to uncover what's really holding you back, I guess, and what strategies can they think about implementing to really move forward?
The first one is I have a standard mantra for people to begin to accept, and I do say accept because they have to accept it, and that is that they're born to be a success, and success is easy. Everything that we've been taught about success is that it's difficult, you have to sacrifice, you have to work hard. And I'm not against hard work as in diligent work, but one of the things that I've noticed is that the way people interpret hard usually ends up reflecting the way that they view what they're doing. So they take things that actually are simple and quite easy and they make them difficult because their self-esteem is based on, did I work hard enough, right? So that's the first thing, is that it's easy. The second thing is that money is never a problem. Money's not a problem. Money is an effect, and everybody on the planet has the same amount of money. And when we get them past that blind spot, not only does it change their income, but it also changes the amount of money that they're able to receive within the structure of their marketing and their sales. And the other thing is this, that they get to the point where they can say, where they really understand what they want. Because I think the most important question in life is, what do you want? Right? You're here. Your greatest power is your ability to choose. You have the ability to create whatever life that you want. The problem is most people are taught it's not okay to have what they want. So if they can get to the place where they go, I want this because I want it, I no longer have to justify it to myself or anybody else. The dream is magnificent after that point, if they can get to that place. So those are the three things.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I'm going to butcher the quote horribly. You'll probably remember it and know it. The day that you thought you're born is fantastic, but the day you find out why, it's the best. And, it's touched to that point there. You touched on income, and, we've been through some challenging times over recent years. Heck, we've had a global pandemic. So, how can businesses turn their annual income into monthly income while navigating uncertainty? And we're currently going through an AI revolution right now. So, yeah, what would you say to that?
Well, the number one thing, so the funny thing about the pandemic is that when I saw that they were shutting things down, I thought to myself, we've got a problem that I don't know how many people are actually noticing. And that is that everybody has hardwired into their mind how goods and services get to them. And that's going to change, and it may change forever, right? So I did a group call that we had thousands of people on the call that were in business, that were losing their business, and we were helping them rethink how to stay in business with all the restrictions that the government was actually putting on them. And they all stayed. All of those people that we worked with stayed in business all the way through the pandemic. But the idea around money is that there's a couple of things that have to become a reality in your life. There is no shortage. Okay, so let me give you an example. I say this and it sounds ludicrous to people that hear it. Everybody on the planet has the same amount of money, but let me back that up. Here's the reason why. Every dollar I earn futuristically and you earn and everybody else currently is in the hands of somebody else, right? So that is opportunity, that's potential. And it's the same for everybody, no matter who it is. The only thing that a person lacks is the skill set to move it from that person into your hand. You can teach that skill set to a child, right? Homeless people have that skill set. Go sit and watch them, and they will collect money all day long in a coffee can or a box or something. People will just give them money. The idea that's wrapped in our mind is the idea of, well, I said that to one person. They said, so you're telling me that I should beg for my business? I said, no, I'm not telling you should beg for your business. I said, that's your judgment of what they're doing. What you're missing is that they're open to receiving, and you're not. And that's the problem. Now, most people would say, I'm not closed to receiving. Give me the money. Yes, you are closed to receiving, because all the money that you could want is there, but you're putting blocks and obstacles in place where you can't let it flow into your life. Whether it is you don't think you deserve it, you don't ask for it enough. You have another big block is, what is the future value of what you do for somebody else? And can you make them cognizant of that future value? Because if you can, and there is a legitimate urgency in that person's life, price is never a problem. People will always get the money for whatever it is that they want, and it doesn't matter what situation we're in, people are always spending. People are always buying. I don't buy into this, the ups and downs, and they're not buying this and they're not buying that. We got the pandemic and we've got an election and we've got all these other different things. Go to the grocery store. People are spending money. They're buying. They're going to buy what they feel is important to them. Your job as an attorney is to make them very much understand the importance of why they want to do business with you. But really, honest to God, the biggest thing is a person's ability to be able to receive money, to be able to receive and receive it graciously, and to feel that you're worth it from the place of what you want and to actually ask for what you want. When a person breaks through that, you'll watch them 10x their business almost overnight after that. And they're like, I cannot believe that this is what the problem was. You almost have to walk them through it so that they can see it. But when they see it, they never forget it.
Today's episode is brought to you by Clio, host of the annual Clio Cloud Conference. Better known as ClioCon, it's the biggest conference in legal and an opportunity that every legal professional should take advantage of. This year, ClioCon is headed to the iconic city of Boston, Massachusetts on October the 16th and 17th. A city steeped in legal history and renowned for its culture of innovation, Boston is the perfect setting for this incredible event. And right now is the perfect time to buy your passes before prices go up at the end of February. Join thousands of legal professionals, thought leaders, and industry experts to network, uncover the latest legal trends, gain groundbreaking insights, and learn practical strategies to elevate your practice. Whether it's mastering marketing techniques, streamlining your workflows, or enhancing client relationships, CleoCon offers actionable insights that make a real difference. Past prices will never be this low again, so act now. Visit CleoCloudConference.com to secure your pass today. Now back to the show.
So many wise words in there, and so many things spring to my mind. Firstly, price is what you pay, value is what you get. And I strongly believe never reduce your price, always look at increasing your value. And, the red car theory, which you may be very familiar of, that, be alive to opportunities. If I mention red cars to you, you suddenly go outside, you'll start being cognizant of red cars. If you don't, red cars are passing you by and they're opportunities. So like to your point of be open to receiving and really be alive to opportunities that could be around you. Really, really like that. So let's talk about, fear, because that gets in the way again with a lot of people within business. How do you evaluate a decision to make a decision based on truth rather than fear? And how is this applicable to different circumstances, whether starting a company or maybe a lawyer applying to a new job?
Okay. Great question. So first of all, let me address the fear part of it. It's a huge question that I get, probably one of the most common questions. How do I get rid of this fear? And the idea is that you don't. First of all, we need to stop looking at fear as a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's necessary. If we lost fear completely, we'd probably kill ourselves in a week or two, because there would be no heightened radar about saying, hey, pay attention to this. But fear in its proper perspective is wisdom, right? So if we experience fear, then we should go, okay, now I need to use my intellect and ask the question, is this something that I really need to be afraid of? If so, and why? And if not, then how do I need to think about it so that I can proceed? And then you don't so much control the fear, but you have authority over it. So you're like, okay, fear, you did your job. Thank you. Now I've got it. There's nothing to worry about. And you're training your mind to respond that way. With opportunities, there are 4 questions that you can ask in any opportunity that will determine if you should move forward in it. And here's what they are. Number 1, is this something that I want to be, do, or have? Number 2, is being, doing, or having this going to take me closer to my goal? Number 3, is being, doing, or having this in harmony with God's laws or the laws of the universe? The idea being, is this opportunity what we call a more life opportunity? Is it going to add to my life? Is it going to add to the lives of other people? And number 4, is being, doing, or having this going to violate the rights of others? So you're looking for 3 yeses and a no, right? And the bottom one, the last one, the right that we don't want to violate is we don't want to take away another person's choice. That's the perspective that we're coming for in that question. You get 3 yeses and a no, move forward on the opportunity, right? So let's go back to the first question. Is this something I want to be, do, or have? Because it seems overly simplistic. And I get that pushback sometimes. Like, that is really, like, don't you understand how complicated this thing is that we're doing? That seems overly simplistic. And I'm like, it's overly simplistic because you don't know how to answer the question from your own center of gravity. Meaning, the very first question, do you really know what you want? Or are you doing something that you think you need to do in life? Or are you burdened by a bunch of responsibilities that you created out of ignorance? Or you've never given yourself permission to want what you want? Those questions need to be cleared up first before you ask the 4. Here's why. If you know what you want, if you're certain in your heart, right? Like, I love that video on YouTube of Denzel Washington giving the commencement speech where he says, desire is God's promise to you ahead of time that something is already yours. I can 100% believe that. That's our guide in life, if we will open up to it. If you get to the point where you can say to yourself, this is something that I want, then you literally raise your awareness as a human being, meaning that the next step is that you're a creator. And there's nothing that you can't imagine in your mind or feel in your heart that you can't create in your life. So as you get clear to that, what ends up happening is that a lot of the reasons or ideas of why people say you can or can't do something, they melt away because they're not important. The only thing that's important is that you believe that you can do it. And the world has been changed a million times by people that have that belief. But they have the belief because they really know what they want. If it's something, if you have to get yourself up every day to go live your life or do your job, you better reevaluate what the hell you're doing, because that's not how we were supposed to live. I think we should get up every day and do only the things that we absolutely love to do. And the only reasons that we don't is because we don't master other areas of our life where we can have other people do those other things that we don't really like to do, that they're actually better gifted for than we are.
And this, the listeners will be sick and tired of me regurgitating these quotes, but just from what you've said there is what Mentor said to me very early on. The magic you are looking for is in the work that you're avoiding. And I think it talks to that very plainly. And if it's meant to be, it's up to me, and having that self accountability. And I love your framing around fear, because ultimately the comfort zone is great, but nothing grows there. And actually having that mindset of, actually we need fear. This is part of the process, the journey, and getting uncomfortable around that and growing. I really, really like that. So let's talk about emotions, because I always say when emotions go up, sometimes intelligence can go down. So what steps can you take to really regulate and control emotions, particularly in the face of uncertainty and doubt?
Okay, great question that you should ask yourself. Whenever you're having an emotional reaction to anything in your life, good emotional intelligence, if you believe in that word, is to ask yourself, why am I choosing to feel this way? Or why am I choosing to have this experience, right? So the first idea behind it is, number one, I'm going to accept responsibility for what this is and my reaction to it. And then I'm going to ask myself, why do I feel this way about it? Because the one thing that we can definitely change is the programming of our emotional response to every physical or an environmental interaction that we have. All of those emotions are programmed anyway. Somebody taught us to feel this way about things. They taught us to think the way that we think about things. All the meanings, I like to say, when human beings came here, in whatever you believe, we were not given a manual that said, here's what everything means and what it's for. We went out and did that, right? So those things, we have common agreements so that we can get along socially in life. But if a meaning is not serving you in the direction that you want to go, your responsibility is to change that meaning for yourself and the subsequent emotion that goes along with it.
Yeah, no, again, really valuable insights. I'm really enjoying the conversation. Let's talk a little bit more about growing law firms and, recommending some solutions, because I'm sure a lot of our listeners may be having some difficulties with that, and it's challenging times at the moment. And so, I think you talk to, what is often keeping lawyers prisoner to their firm. So what is often holding law firms back, unlocking their full potential, and what solutions would you recommend to them to get out of that block?
One is avoiding sales. I see that as one of the number one things that I run into in clients that I'm coaching and working with is the avoidance of sales, and because of that, the lack of mastery. So when we train salespeople, we actually have them record sales calls so that we can work with them and let them hear what they're doing that's actually pushing people away or not getting what they want. It's a skill. It is an absolute skill. Everybody has the ability to do it. The biggest problem is that most of us were taught that it wasn't okay, right? We're born askers. Kids ask for everything. They want everything. They expect everything. And then they're told no a million times, by the time they're 10. So that number one is sales. I believe, my personal belief in all of business is that you master that first. The reason is because it gives you the most fluid resource to expand the rest of the business, no matter what the problem is. Otherwise, you will always be reduced to the level of the problem that you have. If you have the ability, if you have money or you have the ability to go out and create the money as you need it, you can then use money to solve those problems in a very different way, so that it allows you to, number one, enjoy what you're doing, but also expand the company. The other thing is that build in the direction that you want to go. You don't need the money first. You need to make the decision first on the direction that you want to go in the business. If you'll do that, the money will come, as long as you're not going to sit around and not make the sales. So if you're weak in sales, just acknowledge it. Go, this is where I need work. I think a person can turn that skill set around in a very short period of time, because the more you do, the better you get at it really quick, especially if you get some coaching around it. The next thing is make decisions in the direction that you want to go, from the place of what you want, not from a place of what you need. Change your needs to match your wants in life, and every day is a pleasure to work toward. Don't be reduced by the level of your problem. Make sure that you delegate that to the people that need to do those things. And if you don't have those people, hire them the best that you can and pay for the best talent. Don't shortcut that. Do not shortcut that.
As someone in the legal talent recruiting space for many years, that really is one of the best investments you can make. I agree with you on the point you say, every master was once a disaster. You've got to start somewhere. And I love that you really mention that you work on it. And again, so many people, when I speak with and around the legal world, sales is the dirty word. I see it as serving. You're serving.
Absolutely.
If you master your craft, sales is ultimately serving people who need what you're offering. Let's talk about your author, best-selling books. You've done a lot in a short space of time, it has to be said, but you are a best-selling author of The Millions Within. So what was your inspiration behind writing the book, and can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, interestingly enough, I had a little bit of a blind spot around this myself. I basically had the book written, and I had a ghostwriter help me write it, because I'm not a good writer. I'm a speaker. So I had a mastermind group that I was running, and we were at a steakhouse in Las Vegas. And I said, look, I'm going to ask for everybody's help here. I said, because I'm a little stuck. I said, I need a title for this book. And we threw the idea around the table. And this one person said, you know what you do? And I said, what's that? You help people find the millions within. And I said, that's the name of the book right there. So that's how the name of the book came about. The ideas in the book is a condensed version of basically what I teach from the stage in live events, 3-4 day events.
Yeah, and I'd highly recommend folks go and check it out. I think, you're sharing lots of value and all the wisdom. And so let's move to podcasting, because you don't sit still. You're also the host of the Business Daily News Rank podcast, Successful Mind. So tell us more about your show and what you hope for your listeners to learn from tuning in.
So again, this is another learning thing, right? So part of the credit goes to, you know who Gary Vee is?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've collaborated with him on a few LinkedIn audios.
Yeah, he's great. Me too. He's a great guy. So back around 2017, me and my CEO were, at the time, were going to meet with Gary in New York. And I was doing this podcast, except I was kind of holding back on it. And Gary said, no, dude, give it all your best material on the podcast. He said, because, the thought is, like, if you give away everything, nobody's going to pay for anything. He said, that's not true. It's absolutely not true. So the idea with the podcast was, I want to do something basically that doesn't cost money, to be a reach out to people so that they can literally take very valuable information in small chunks, apply it to their business and their life, and make rapid changes. So that was the story behind how the podcast kind of started and got its legs.
Yeah, and it's a great show, and I strongly believe podcasting is still a great space to go into. They have super long tails, so many great things can come from it, and sharing thought leadership, collaborating, building a brand. There's so many amazing things come from it. So I love it, and we recommend folks go and check out your show. Let's talk about mentors, because they've been hugely valuable for me throughout my entrepreneurial journey, and I know for you too. You've worked alongside very well-known mentors, the likes of Bob Proctor and Tony Robbins. So what advice have you received from a mentor that had made sure you have been able to adopt in your work and has helped you with your entrepreneurial journey?
Well, when I worked with Proctor, I give credit. Like, I wouldn't be the man that I am today if I had not worked with him. I give him all of that credit. He turned my life around like nobody else had. He was very much a father figure for me. And I started working with him around 1996. But he said to me, he said to me, what do you want? And I said, I want to make $1 million. Now, when I said that to him, that was not 100% true. Yes, I wanted to make the $1 million, but that was not the number one thing I wanted. I wanted to figure out what my purpose was, right? That was the most important thing to me at the time. And I'm sitting there studying for all these years, not knowing that I'm in my purpose. I didn't even recognize it. He said, you don't believe that you can make the $1 million, do you? And I like almost kind of felt like shame. And I looked down and I said, no. I said, I don't. He said, would you believe in my belief that you could do it? And here's where my mind was at the time. I thought to myself, this guy gets absolutely nothing to believe in me. Like, why would he believe in me if that wasn't true? I mean, that's really where I was at the time. And I said to him, yes, I'll believe that. He said, then what I want you to do is I want you to do everything that I tell you to do. He said, I will coach you if you do exactly what I tell you to do. He said, you can ask questions. He said, but don't argue with me about doing it. He said, until you earn more money than me or you find out I'm lying to you, don't argue with me about it. And I said, deal. My income went up so fast and my success went in so many directions from literally from a standstill. Like, I was working, nobody knew who I was. I had no contacts or anything. I was working in the petroleum market in direct fuel delivery in Chicago. And like one day I was doing that. The next day I was doing seminars and I was speaking all over the country. So it was because of what he said to me to get me out of that place and move forward. And then the idea was he taught me, number one, make a decision. Number two, trust spirit. He said, you have to trust it. We owned a company together for a short period of time when we worked together. And I got to go all over the world with him and speak and do seminars, which was like a dream. The first night that I met with him, I got into a hotel and he had left a message for me. He said, I'm down in the restaurant having dinner. Come join me. And I brought this whole stack of stuff, notes and all this stuff down. He says, what's all that? And I said, well, these are all a bunch of ideas that I had for, the seminar, and because I'm doing this with him. He goes, we're not doing any of that. He didn't even look at it. He goes, we're not doing any of that. He said, I'm going to teach you something that very few people know. And I said, what's that? He said, you need to learn how to let spirit lead you on the stage. He said, I do almost no preparation. He said, I got an outline in my head of what I want to teach, but how that's going to come across in the next 3 days is unknown to me right now, and we start tomorrow morning. That's what he taught me. Scared the hell out of me. But it's been the creative foundation of everything that I've done since then.
Yeah, and what a great example of being pushed out of a comfort zone right there, right? From a mentor.
Right there. Day one. He didn't play around.
Yeah, and I love that. And there's so many lessons, and it just proves the point that mentors are just so invaluable throughout your career. And you embrace that, got so many wisdom, and you're so gracious as well, which I really, really like about, attributing, credit to those who help you along your journey. I think that's very important, and paying it backwards and forwards. Okay, this has been an absolute fascinating discussion, David. Really, really enjoyed learning more about your career, your insights. So if our listeners, which I'm sure they will, want to follow or learn more about your career, Life is Now, or indeed the Successful Mind, where can they go to find out more? Feel free to share any websites, any social media handles. We'll also make sure that we include them in this episode for you too.
Yeah, you can go to davidneagle.com or lifeisnow.com. If you really want to get a taste of what we do, just go to the Successful Mind podcast. And we've got, just listen, pick any topic that you want to listen to, and you can get a really good taste of what it is that I do.
Absolutely. Well, it just leads me to say thank you so much once again, David, for coming on the show today. From all of us on the Legally Speaking podcast, sponsored by Clio, wishing you lots of continued success with your entrepreneurial pursuits and everything you're getting up to. But for now, from all of us, over and out.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. If you like the content here, why not check out our world-leading content and collaboration hub, the Legally Speaking Club, over on Discord. Go to our website, www.legallyspeakingpodcast.com, for the link to join our community there. Over and out.
Exciting news, listeners. We're pleased to announce another upcoming special mini-series, Legally on the Move, Careers, Tech and Insights from Dubai. In this exclusive series, we're taking the podcast to Dubai, a city that's redefining legal careers, leading in tech innovation and setting the stage for transformative global insights. Here's a sneak peek of what's coming your way. Career stories from top legal professionals thriving in Dubai's unique legal market, the latest on AI, blockchain, and how legal tech is reshaping the future of law, thought-provoking conversations on diversity, leadership, and building global connections. And here's the best part. We'll be recording in some of Dubai's most iconic locations, capturing not just the insights, but some of the incredible energy of this vibrant city. So stay tuned and get ready for Legally on the Move. Trust us, you won't want to miss this journey.
Over and out.